Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a topic called formatting output. It is no specific chapter of class 11 and 12. It is, we've been using the print command to display the data, but if you want the data in a particular format, okay, you could make use of the things that we're going to learn today, okay? And especially when you do your class 12 projects, it will be of good use, okay? And I'm using the Google Colab uh, online platform, so it's easy for me to keep showing you the output along with the code there. Clear? So let's get started. Okay, I want all of you all to concentrate on the first screen here where I've given C a value. Okay, just some random value. Now here I've assigned a value to C. Probably in your program you have calculated the value of C, and the calculated value you must have seen when you displayed, displays up to 10 and 11 digits after the decimal point, correct? So I have just given a value to C, assuming it's a calculated value, and I have displayed. Now, one important thing about the print statement we have learned is the print automatically converts everything that you're printing into a string. Okay, so C is basically internally converted to a string and displayed. That doesn't mean it becomes a string. It's only for the function print to execute. Okay, so I don't need to be talking too much about the first part of the program there. So when I run the program, I would want you to see that yes, whatever is the value of C, that is exactly what I have got. Okay, but what if I don't want so many decimal places as it shows there? And I want up to 2 decimal places. Is there something that I can do? Yes, and that is what our concentration today is. I would want all of you all to look at my next statements, and I would want you all to concentrate on this part. I've written %.2f. F stands for floating point values, and we know C is a floating point value. What does 0.2F mean? I want the number to be displayed only up to 2 decimal places, okay? So 0.2 would mean that after the decimal place, I want only numbers or digits to be displayed up to 2 decimal places. And the operator that we are using here is the modulus operator, but here it doesn't work like your mathematical operator. It is called the string modulo operator. So how is the format here of this particular statement? You write the message that you want to, display. After that, you give this formatting pattern, okay? So 0.2 if I want 2 decimal places, 0.3 if I want 3 decimal places, and so on. And after the completion of your double quotes, that's your string, again we put the modulus operator, and after that you specify the value that you want to print. Okay, so let me just, my percentage sign has just gone there. Okay, so now in this scenario you will see that it will not print 3.33333. Instead it will only print 3.33. Let's execute and see. Okay, I execute the program, and can you see it's just printed 3.33 because you said up to 2 decimal places. Yes, there is rounding taking place here. So if your number was 3.588, it would display as 3.59. So there is that rounding concept also taking place. Okay, another interesting thing that I would want you to know is, previously I just wrote 0.2f because I was talking about the number of digits I want after the decimal point. In the next example, I have written 8.2. What does 8.2 here? 8 is the total width given on the screen to display the value of C. So on the screen, you have many characters could be displayed, right? So on the screen, I am assigning 8 characters or 8 spaces for displaying C. And within that 8 spaces, you are going to be displaying C only up to 2 decimal places because you have said 0.2. Okay, so then in that 8 spaces, when I want to display 3.3333 up to only 2 places, I have to display only 3.33. So that means how many spaces am I using on my screen? Only 4. Then what happens to the other 4? Because I've spoken about using 8 spaces. Now these 4 letters or characters that you display are going to be right aligned, which means you will see 4 spaces before 3.33 gets displayed on screen. Let's just run the program and see the result. So can you see here a gap between is and 3.33? The first gap it gets is because of the gap that you have put here. And the other 4 gaps is because you said the width given to display C was 8, but C had only 4 elements, 3 digits and a decimal point. So 4 spaces were left before 3.33. Okay, what if you want to fill up those unused spaces with some value? Then what could you do? Look at the next example that I've shown here. I've written 08.2f. So what does the 0 before 8 mean? All the unused spaces of this 8 spaces or the 8 width that you have given to C will be showing 0, all the unused spaces, because 3.33, this number needs only 4 space on the screen. So what happens to the remaining 4? You are going to be getting 0 before it. Okay, so let me just run the program and show you what I mean by that. Can you see 4 zeros and then 3.33? Because then you're using the complete 8 space given to you, but all unused spaces, you are going to be replacing it by 0. That's because you have written a 0 here. Let me take you one step ahead. Here you are displaying only one variable. What if you wanted to display the value of 2 variables? Then in that scenario, this pattern that we're talking about, we would have to give it 2 times. Okay, so I've just taken a variable C with value whatever and D with another value, and I've taken one as float and one as integer. Now I want to display the value of C as well as D. So I wrote the value of C is, and I gave a pattern. Now, what does my pattern? Remember, the pattern is always, preceded by the percentage symbol. That's called the string modulo operator. Okay. And what is the pattern telling you? 0.2f. That means I want whatever is the value, the first element that you're going to display, I want to display it only up to 2 decimal places. And D is, I've written %6D. Now, mind you, here I've written D. D stands for integer. You could also write I, or you could also write D. Both mean you are talking about something which is an integer. Okay. Now, in the previous scenario, because you had to display only one value, you just wrote %C. But if you have to display multiple values, then what you do is all the values that you want to display, you will put it up in a list. Now, what is a list? List is a sequence of elements that is enclosed within parentheses. Parentheses means round brackets separated by a comma. So what happens is the first variable that you specify here will satisfy the first format that you specified here. So C's value is going to be using this particular format, whereas D's value is going to be using this particular format. Now in D also you saw that I'm only using 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So what about the 2 spaces? Currently it is going to be showing you blank. Let's run the program and see what you see on the screen. Can you see 1, 2, 3, 4 with some blank spaces here? That's to accommodate the 6 spaces. But you didn't see any extra spaces with 3.33. That's because you did not give a total width. That means what will be the width? The number of characters or the number of elements that you see in C, that becomes its width. Is that clear? Okay. Now these were all using the string modulo operator. Basically this, they say, is the old style of formatting a string. Nowadays, okay, with newer versions of Spider, IDE or anything else, they have started using the format function of the str class. Okay. Now, how does this format function work? Let me take you to my next example and things are going to be clear. Okay. When you're using the format function, you are going to be creating a placeholder. Can you see a curly bracket, opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket here? These are called placeholders. So each placeholder means a particular value to be displayed at that location. Okay, what does the 0 before the colon mean? This means this is the first placeholder in that particular string. And the formatting is identical to the formatting that you have learned earlier. Only thing is now we're not making use of the string modulo operator, that's the percentage, the modulus operator sign, but instead we are going to be making use of the format function. So that formatting remained the same. Then you write the word dot, then you write or call the function called format. And what did you want to display? Actually, the value of C. So here, basically, what am I saying? That I want to display the value of C. I want C to occupy 8 spaces on the screen, but it is going to be right aligned. So if C doesn't have 8 elements to be displayed. The elements before the value of C is just going to be blank. Okay, so let's just run the program. And can you see your 3.33 displayed? Okay, let me just change this to 3. Okay, suppose it was 8.3F, because I've been always showing you 8.2. Okay, so let me see. Can you see up to 3 decimal places? So what you write after the point decides how many elements do you want to show after the decimal places. Some of you all must have realized in some of your programs, you know, the especially floating point numbers which are calculated by Python automatically because of your formulas, you know, it shows up to 10 to 11 decimal places. So you don't wish to see all that. You could make use of the output formatting methods that we are talking about. Is that clear? Okay. Now, what if I wanted to display 2 elements like I did with the string modulo operator? Can I do it with format? Yes. This is my first placeholder. Placeholders are elements that you write in curly brackets. And this is my second placeholder. Okay. And instead of those 2 placeholders, what am I supposed to be displaying? The value of C and the value of D. So in the previous example, format function had only one parameter called C. That's because there was only one placeholder. Here I have 2 placeholders. So I have to give 2 values, which is C and D. Another interesting thing that you need to know here is I wrote a 0 here and I wrote a 1 here. Okay, that's because that's the first placeholder represented by value 0 and the second placeholder represented by value 1. So remember, C will always take the place of the first placeholder because that's the first parameter. D will always take place of the second, take place in the second placeholder value because that's the second parameter. Okay, now it is not necessary to write 0 and 1 automatically also. Python gives it placeholder values as 0 and 1. So here I display this. Let's look. So can you see the space here because you have said 8? And can you see some spaces here because you have said 6? Okay. Now in my next example, I'm showing you that I did not give placeholder 0 and placeholder 1 because Python automatically calls the first placeholder as placeholder 0, the second placeholder as placeholder 1. So remember your C and D. The order that you write here will automatically be placed in the correct placeholder. So if you have written C, D, C is to be substituted in the first placeholder value and D has to be substituted in the second placeholder value. Let me just run this program also and show you. It's going to be the same thing, correct? It's going to be exactly like that. Only thing is here I specified the placeholder 0 and placeholder 1. Here I did not specify any placeholder because I told you Python automatically gives placeholder 0 to the first placeholder and placeholder 1 name to the second placeholder. Okay. Another interesting thing about the placeholder is Python gives automatically names 0, 1, 2 and so on. What if you wanted to give placeholders some value? So my first placeholder is called XYZ and my second placeholder I called it as ABC. Then in that scenario, when you write the format function, you need not write C first before D. I have written ABC is equal to D. So what do I mean by this? Wherever the placeholder name is ABC, you must substitute it with the value of D, which means I'm talking about this element, not the first. So even if it's written here first, it's talking about this element. This is called keyword arguments. It's not the position. It's not the position. You are using the placeholder name and then assigning a value. And XYZ is equal to C means wherever you see a placeholder with the name XYZ, in that placeholder location, you have to substitute the value of C. Okay. So again, output wise, it is just going to be identical. I did not use the default placeholder value of Python, which is 0 and 1, but instead I gave my placeholder names. Okay. Now, another interesting thing about formatting, which you don't have with the string modulo operator is, I told you here, numbers are always, even for this, numbers are always going to be right aligned, whether it's an integer or a float. But if it was a string, strings are always in both the cases left aligned. But what does the format function do? The format function allows me to left align numbers or to even central align numbers. For that, I'm making use of these operators here. The first example or the first line that you see here is our regular statement. It will display the value of C, taking 8 spaces as its width. and showing 2 decimal places after the 2 digits after the decimal point, but it's going to be right aligned. For any reason, if you wanted it to be left aligned in that 8th width space, then you put the less than sign before you write the format pattern. Or if you wanted it to be centrally aligned, then you put the cap sign. Okay, are we ready to see how it looks? Okay, so let me just run the code. Can you see 3.3 here, right aligned? And you can see that there is some space left before 3.33. Can you see this is left aligned? Because can you see there are some spaces left after 3.33? And here, if you see, there are some spaces left before as well as after. Is that clear? Okay, now this was talking about, displaying it up to a particular, decimal point and so on. Because with integers, you saw it didn't have any specific thing to be done. But what if you want to display something in tabular form? Okay, so basically, if you want to display something in tabular form, that's when I will make use of %s and %d more. But %f or F concept, I could use it a couple of times in my program when I don't want so many decimal places to be seen in the answer. Okay, so I will take you to my next program. To understand that, let me just explain what is happening here. I have 3 variables, name, admission number, and sal, with some certain values there. I want it to be shown in tabular form, which means I want heading admission number, under that the admission number. I want name, under that the name. I want salary, and under that the salary. So what did I do? My first line here is talking about, I'm using the modulus operator, the string modulo operator, to do the example first, then I will show you with the format. The first line here, can you see, says %15s, S stands for string, 15 spaces to be reserved to display what? To display ADMNO. The next 25 spaces to display the heading name, and the next 20 spaces to display salary. Now you might say, but admission number and salary are not strings, but I'm talking about displaying ADMNO, not the value 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is a string, correct? So I have given 15 spaces for admission number, 15 spaces for name, 15 spaces for strings, okay? And I'm saying display admission number, name, and salary, that heading. Next, I'm following the same pattern, same spaces, but now I want to display the variables admission number, name, and salary. So I did not write 15s because now I know ADMNO is an integer, so I wrote 15d. Then I wrote 25s. Then I wrote 20.2f. 2f means I want to show only up to 2 decimal places. But why did I write 20? Because my heading salary also had only 20 spaces. So the value under it also should have the same spaces. Only then it's going to look tabular. Let's just run this program and see what you see here. Can you see that it's come under? So can you see some spaces left here? That's because admission number had 15 spaces, name had 25 spaces, salary had 20 spaces. And can you see all of them are right aligned here? So the percentage operator is displaying everything by default as right aligned. Now can you shift here left and right? The percentage operator doesn't give us that feature. Okay, now the same program I did, but now using the format function. So I have, now let's understand this part. So how many things I want to display? Admission number, name, and salary. So in my print statement, how many placeholders should I have? 3. So this is my first placeholder. This is my second placeholder. This is my second placeholder that you see here. Okay, and that's my third placeholder. And the format that I've used is the same. Only thing is we don't need to put the percentage sign. And you remember putting the colon to say this is the first 0th placeholder, the first placeholder, and the second placeholder. And I use the format function to display all this. Okay. Now when I came to displaying values, admission number, I said 15D, and I know by default it's going to be right aligned. Okay. Strings, I told you in format function is left aligned. Okay. So what happens is, I will show it to you. If I didn't put this, what would have happened? It would be left aligned. And then I have my salary to be displayed. But if I look here and if I run this program, it may not look tabular at all. Can you see? 1, 2, 3, 4 got right aligned, but Rahul in this whole space that it got, it became left aligned. Okay. So I don't want that to happen. So what could I do? I could give a message. I mean, I could give a greater than sign to make it right aligned. The same thing that I used for, you know, all these string elements here, because otherwise all of the string elements headings would be left aligned. So I'm just running the program for you and you will see. Can you see it? Okay, I would want to show you what would happen if I remove all these greater than signs here, because it's a string. Okay, strings in format are left aligned. So then if I run the program, can you see my headings and those things don't match at all? Why? It's using the same space given to it, but my headings went left aligned because I did not give it used the default format, whereas my data went right aligned. Okay, so if you want it left aligned, if you wanted everything left aligned, perfect. Remove this. Okay, but roll admission number and all would be automatically right aligned. So to make them left aligned, I would have to put this. So it's up to you. Like, do you want your data to be seen? Can you see? So now it's all left aligned data. So you just work with those less than, greater than signs, and you will see that it is doing the alignment correctly. Clear? So practice this out, try out things on your own, see what happens when you put this, and then it becomes more thorough. So this is basically just to format your string, something when you need tabular, you can make use of this concept, look at it carefully, understand each element that I'm talking about there, things should be fine. Okay, and probably in your projects, yes, your class 12 projects, you will have to probably have some kind of a formatting rather than just displaying data. In that case, what we learned today could be, of use to you. Clear? Okay, bye. Thank you.